If you want to see what they look like, take a look at the faces of evil from the London Express. Take a look at their faces and then look around your neighborhood and ask yourself if you need more faces like those in your neighborhood or those like these subhumans that were caught on the raid. By the way, the Muslim bomber was a big pothead, according to his ex-wife. He sat in his apartment and smoked dope all day long. Now, something on that I want to mention, that I've mentioned over the years that nobody seems to remember in the media. You know the word assassin, of course. You know where the word assassin derives from? Do you know what hashish and assassin have in common? Did you know that most assassins in the Middle East did use and continue to use hashish before involving themselves in these subhuman events where they become dehumanized themselves from the hashish? Did you know that marijuana and hashish dehumanize you, which is why Harvey Weinstein, Katzenberg, Matzenberg, Ratzenberg, and others continue to show marijuana as a healthy herb for you to use? Do you understand that marijuana dehumanizes you? Do you understand that the word hashish and assassin derive from the same root word? Do you understand that assassins to this day still smoke dope before going out on one of their sick missions? Think about that the next time you think you're just having a J, because you're not just having a J, you're killing your soul. Black Guy for Black Lives hate mongers. Did you see that story? Did you see their hashtag, F Paris? Because the babies, the crybabies in the Black Lives Matter movement were upset that the world was paying attention to real victims. Next story from the New York Post on the Savage Nation. Are you ready for this one? The death of the West, Charlie Cleen. After his HIV diagnosis, Charlie Cleen spent $1.6 million on hookers. Now you know why he had such a hit on television. Now you know why the media extols these people, because they're one and the same. Muslim congressman defends Muslim Syrian refugees' First Amendment rights, even though they're not citizens, just as we expected from a Muslim congressman. Representative Keith Ellison defends the Muslim Syrian refugees, saying they have First Amendment rights. How could they have rights if they're not here yet? Well, the answer is, as you well know, when you are a co-religionist, you put your religion ahead of your nation. Asked about his reaction to proposals from lawmakers such as Republican presidential candidate Senator Ted Cruz to block Muslim Syrian refugees as a precaution against allowing Islamic State terrorists into the country, Ellison said that he had a simple response. I say Congress shall make no law establishing a religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. The Minnesota Muslim Democrats said on More Snotty Nonsense by Chicks. So he used one of our laws as a Trojan horse to bring more of them in. Now, of course, most of them won't be suicide bombers or terrorists. We know that. But let me ask you good liberals a question. What if only a small percentage of them turn out to be such? Would you then say that the person responsible for the deaths that result should be arrested? See, I think Ellison should sign a paper that says, I guarantee that none of these Muslim refugees will wind up committing terrorism in America. And if they do, I'll take personal responsibility for it. I'll put up my house, I'll put up my car, I'll put up anything else I own as collateral against such future damage in a fund for any Americans harmed by any of these wonderful, wonderful fellow travelers of mine, or shall I say co-religionists of mine. And I think the same should apply to any one of the other bleeding heart liberals who want the Muslims from Syria to come in here. Put up a piece of collateral and put it into a national fund that shall be used for those victims should they occur. How's that for an idea? I think it's a fine idea. Give me your tired, your poor, and your bomb maker. That should be the new inscription on Obama's Statue of Disliberty. Give me your tired, your poor, and your bomb maker. Government Zero warned you about this. No borders, no language, no culture. Read all about President Zero's plans.
Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of unprotected talk, borders, language, culture. And here he is, Michael Savage.
It is The Savage Nation. How do you explain that trains, planes, cars, rockets, telescopes, tires, telephones, radios, television, electricity, atomic energy, computers, and fax machines were all miracles made possible by the minds and spirits of men with names like Ampere, Bell, Caselli, Edison, Ohm, Faraday, Einstein, Cohen, Teller, Shockley, Hertz, Marconi, Morse, Popov, Ford, Volta, Michelin, Dunlop, Watt, Diesel, Galileo, and other so-called dead white males. And what I'm about to say is tantamount to blasphemy in this politically insane day and age. Yet truth is truth. How long are we going to pretend that dead white males gave us most of the inventions that we all enjoy on this planet? How about the revolution in electronics and computer technology? Is that not a result of the dead white males? Isn't it true for all of our booms throughout history have the same origins as this one? Just look at the names in your history books and their national origins. The great majority of booms, past and present, have been brought about by the genius and inventiveness of that most despicable of genders, the dreaded white male, or to be exact, by specific individual white males. Now, this is not to discredit the many contributions coming from non-whites and non-white males, but fact is fact. Our most important and consequential inventions have come almost exclusively from white males. Now, you can curse me or all white males if you wish. That changes nothing. But if you call me a liar, you'll have to come up with the proof that I'm wrong. Remember, I didn't say there were no important contributions by non-white males. I said the overwhelming majority. Would we have atomic physics and electricity if it hadn't been for the ancient Greek philosophers who, for example, had the idea that all matter consists of tiny atoms? That was Aristotle in the 5th century BC. He used electrical charges to treat gout. Archimedes, another Greek, perceived the center of gravity of solids, cylinders, and spheres. And from the basic discoveries of Greek civilization, it went to the Romans. And after the fall of Rome, it passed to later Europeans, who expanded on the scientific knowledge. In modern times, these ideas were developed by such Europeans as Volta, Ampere, Watts, Bell, Edison, and Einstein, who provided the basis for most of the technical wonders of today. And all of them are hated because they're white and male. Now, maybe you got your enlightenment from one of the Ivy League institutions of this education. Maybe they taught you that it's all the result of white racism and oppression, that every time a potential Einstein, Edison, or Ford popped up in the third world, a white hit squad would swoop down and eliminate him before he had a chance to prove himself. Or maybe their schools refused to teach him in another language. Or maybe they didn't have proper daycare facilities. Or maybe they were oppressed emotionally. Or maybe our would-be innovator came from a functional family. But the facts tell us that many of the great men pursued their genius at great personal risk, like the astronomer Galileo, who proved that the earth revolves around the sun. He and other men of genius and courage refused to be suppressed, even if it meant their lives. They would permit no race, no gender, no group or class to keep them from their pursuit of truth and excellence, whatever the cost. I warn you, if you eliminate, suppress, or debase the white male, you will kill the goose that laid the golden egg. If you ace him out with affirmative action and the fascism of today's colleges, if you exile him from the family, teach him that he's a blight on mankind, then bon voyage to Western civilization. We will devolve into a third world cesspool. Where has there ever before in history been a group of human beings who have brought about the likes of the Magna Carta, the U.S. Constitution, and the countless life-saving and life-improving inventions that we now enjoy? Does this mean we should all sit back and let ourselves be governed by someone just because he's a white male? Of course it doesn't. It means simply that we shouldn't suppress anyone, including white males. Let our God-given gifts run free in a free and just society, free from the oppression and tyranny of social engineers. If anyone has gifts beyond our own, be he a white male or other, be grateful. Maybe we have gifts that in some small way can contribute something of value as well. One way or another, we're all in the same boat on the same small planet. Few of us have truly outstanding gifts, and most of us have to humbly accept that there are others around who are more gifted than we are. In a democratic society, it's not for Big Brother to decide who shall thrive and who shall struggle in the hive. I'm Michael Savage, and I wrote that monologue in 1999. You know, the speech by Churchill, for many speeches, there's one that's entitled, "We Shall Fight on the Beaches." And he gave that speech to the House of Commons that was known immediately as an historic speech. "We shall fight on the beaches." And I got to tell you, my speech that I just gave you called White Male Inventions is actually in the same category as "We Shall Fight on the Beaches." It's just as inspiring. It should be recalled and remembered long after I'm off the radio. Never forget what I just gave you. I gave you something that you should hold on to. And I want you to understand that I consider it to be an historic speech, especially since I'm proud to tell you I'm the only member of the American media who's been actually banned from entering England. Now, others may say that they're this and they're that, and God bless them. Good for them. But I'm telling you that I wear it as a badge of courage and a badge of honor, that not one person in the American media that you know of came to my defense when I was illegally banned from entering Britain in 2009. And it cost me $400,000, and I got nowhere. You know why? Because nobody backed me in the media. Nobody on Fox News. Anyway, going back to today's topic, we're in very dangerous waters because many people were admitted to campuses who never belonged there to begin with. They never made it based on their grades or their intellect or their intelligence. They were pushed ahead in every grade. And now that they can't keep up with everyone else, they're blaming everyone else for the fact that they can't keep up. And they're coming up with terms like microaggression. They're inventing stuff. They're inventing things, microaggression. Whoever heard of such a thing? It's nonsense. And the America that you know is dying. And the reason it's dying is because of the mentality that's emanating from the sickest administration in history. Some housekeeping. I want to thank you, and it's an important point. Government Zero debuted at number 3 last week on the New York Times bestseller list. I actually beat Trump, whose book only debuted at number 5. And I have virtually no machinery behind me. None whatsoever except the truth itself. So thank you for supporting the Government Zero message. And I want to talk about Donald Trump's candidacy for a minute. I still support him, but he is far from perfect. Just as people continue to extol Ronald Reagan as perfect when he is not perfect, no one is perfect. No person, no politician is perfect. You can't make Donald Trump into a perfect candidate or a perfect man. I don't think he asks you to do that. He is far from perfect. But he may be our last hope as a moderate nationalist. And I have this question which I ask myself. Which candidate would have the guts to drop a tactical nuclear weapon on ISIS if it comes down to that? Do you think anyone else but Trump would have the guts to do it? I don't. There was an excellent article today on the closing of the American mouth by Suzanne Fields in the Washington Times. And she said, college kids do the darndest things. You send them away to open up their minds, and they learn to close them for themselves and for others. The tantrum generation just managed a left-wing coup at the University of Missouri, stifling freedom of expression and forcing out the president and chancellor of the university. And she goes on with a wonderful story about these sub-morons, basically, and what's going on campuses and how it's just like Animal Farm thing, points I made myself. All hiring, admission, and participation shall reflect the racial diversity of the campus, except sports teams, given that sports is a far more important activity than scholarship and teaching, and thus alone requires selection solely on legitimate criteria of merit. I think that was written by Victor Davis Hanson when he wanted to rewrite Orwell's Animal Farm, and he was 100% right. And we've said the same thing on this program for years. It's fascism, no matter what you call it. And no one will stand up to these liberal fascists. If we don't stop them with the truth, you will have no freedom of speech left in this country whatsoever. Don't you think it's a miracle that I've survived 21 years being as outspoken as I am? Do you have any idea what would have happened to me had I gone into my chosen profession and become a professor at one of America's universities? Do you have any idea how long I might have not lasted on the campus, given as forceful, as intelligent, as insightful, and as strong-willed as I am? Do you think I would have survived on a campus? So it was fate or God's will, that when they closed those doors to me, another door opened. There's an old saying, when one door closes, another door